Hi everybody, welcome to Facebook Live. My name is Renee Valerie. I'm the Technical Education Director for TGUS.
And I'm Joel Torres, and I'm the Global Content Director for TG as well.
So we're really excited to spend some time with you today. Joel's going to do an amazing haircut, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the color once we start to get it dry and talk about the inspiration behind it.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Ready to get started?
Yes,
Awesome.
Let's do this. Well, hi everybody. Super excited to be here with the Hairbrain community. So I'm going to be working with the Modern Classic shape, a variation from our latest collection, which we did probably like 2 months ago. So I'm going to be working a couple of ideas from that collection, and then also combining with a modern twist for today's lifestyle. So first, I started working with 2 products that I like a lot. I'm going to put those products right here. They are the Volume Lift Spray and also the Multitasking Styling Cream. So one of the reasons why I like to use a product is when you have a product that is kind of a creamy texture, it's going to allow you to work all the sections in a very clean way. I did these sections probably like 15 minutes ago, and it's still right there. So that's perfect. But also, I like to let the product penetrate the hair and start working. So if you apply a product and start blow drying the hair, it's not enough time. But when you apply the product and start working all your sections and cutting, by the time that you blow dry the hair is perfect, have the nice texture that you need, and that's one of the reasons why I use the product. So talking about a modern classic shape, I'm gonna be working with a textured bob. So all my section is gonna be what I'm doing the classic bob. So my first section is gonna be from the occipital bone all the way to the middle of the ear in both sides, and then a horseshoe section. As you see, I have all my sections in order right now, so then I can work my haircut really easy. So I don't have to work and create more sections through the process. Especially when you don't have a lot of time. And here in live, we're gonna try to do this live in 45 minutes. I think that's a sweet spot. So we don't have time to waste. So I'm gonna start working from the back. Every time I work with the bob, I like to start from the nape area, working from the center, and then move to the side. So I'm gonna do one side first, and then I'm gonna work in the other one.
And this is Courtney from the Hairbrain team behind the camera. You guys, if you have any questions, please ask them and I will pass them along.
Awesome, I forgot about that.
That's okay, I'm here.
Well, Courtney's here with us, and I'm glad because she's amazing. So I'm gonna start working from the center all the way to the corners. So putting the comb parallel to my section, working from the center all the way to the ends, and I'm working with a point cut technique. That way I can maintain a strong perimeter, but at the same time it's gonna be soft. If you want very precise, with a lot of precision, then you can work completely straight. But I want softness on the perimeter, so I work one side first and then I work the other one. The distribution is gonna be, I'm working natural fall and then 0 elevation.
And I noticed you're cutting on wet hair. Do you always prefer to cut wet? What's your take on wet versus dry?
I think dry hair, for me, I work on dry hair when I know that I'm gonna do the color after, so then I can get rid of some of the extra hair, so I can save money on product. And when I'm personalizing, but most of the time I like to work from wet to dry. The elasticity is different. I can have more control on my sectioning. And that's what we do with your clients. You wash your client's hair so they can have that little experience. No, we love to go to the shampoo bowl and get that part of the experience. And then from there, like all my sectioning with wet hair, I think is you have more control.
Let's see, and you have a lot of love coming in. We've got Argentina,
Chile,
Chile, Hong Kong, Mississippi, Cambridge, Iowa, Canada, Hawaii,
awesome.
Joining us today.
Yeah, let us know where you're from. put your flag there, raise your hand, say hello. And if you have any question, either in Spanish or Portuguese, I can help you out with that too. Can you translate?
I cannot translate, so you have to read the question.
So, working here on my first section, just making sure that everything is the length that I want. And right now I have a little shorter on the center, a little longer on the top. That's why she got the head tilt to the front. Once I go like this, then it's gonna be completely straight. So I'm gonna work now on my second section. Depends on the density of the hair, you can subdivide that section in two. No problem with that. But she got a little bit of graduation, so the other section, you're not gonna have a lot of hair coming from the top, so I'm gonna take the entire section and make sure that everything is straight.
And for everyone just joining us, did you use any product in her hair?
Yes. So I use the volume lift from TG Copyright. This is a spray that you put on dry or wet hair. In this case, I'm putting it in wet hair. And that's gonna give me grip, volume, and texture to the hair. And then with the multitasking styling cream, the thickness of the products allows me to work really comfortable. As you see, all the section is completely flat. I don't need to add more water. I just do it, and it keeps the moisture on the hair, so it's really nice and comfortable to work with. So I'm going to work from the second one. Again, point cut for softness, and then moving forward. So at this point, I'm gonna finish this one and then the other one, and then I'm gonna move to the other side. Just for purpose of the Facebook Live, I know people are gonna have a very visuals of what we're doing right here. In this area, I'm going to push the hair behind the ear, right? And for those who are familiar with classics, this is one point that you have to take in consideration, because that can change the entire haircut. So when we have this area, you just comb the hair in natural fall, and then you accommodate the hair. So then whenever you dry the hair, this area from the ear, that is gonna have a little more elevation, then it hits the perfect perimeter all around. So I'm gonna do the same in the opposite, the same side, but in the front, and then point cut.
See, we have a lot of love coming in. We have Jeremy Hickson joining us from Texas. We have Margaret from Scotland. We have Paris Parker Salon from Louisiana. So again, you guys, this is Courtney from the Hairbrain team behind the camera. If you have any questions, let us know and I will pass them along.
Much love and respect to everybody that is taking their time to join us. And I always think that, especially today is what? Friday? On a Friday. Thank you so much. I feel honored that you guys are connecting with us.
And speaking of education, you guys just came out of your second TG Color Summit here in the Academy in New York. For other education, where can people go to find more TG education?
Well, you know what? I'm gonna let the person who is in charge of so many things there in the New York Academy, I think she can explain even better everything
Perfect.
about education.
Well, hi everyone again. If you didn't see the start, I'm Renee Valerie. So I run the color education at the Academy in New York City. But if you are interested in getting to know about our classes that we have on offer, where to sort of find them, go to tgnyc.com, and it actually has our New York City Academy class schedule up there. It has any new events or new classes being put on actually on the website, and you could always call us as well and ask us any questions. But yeah, we did just come out of our Color Summit, and it's our second one that we've ever run, and it's an amazing 3 days experience in New York City. Joelle's actually teaching there as well, teaching a social media class. And we had all things from color intuition, to creative work, creative consultation. It was just an all-around inspiring sort of week. It's kind of my favorite part of the year. But we do have classes almost every week at the Academy in New York and at the Learning Lab in Dallas as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Of course.
And we have a lot of trainings, from color to cutting to styling. We have men's grooming. Men's grooming is twice a year in every location. So 2 times in New York, 2 times in Dallas.
Fantastic. We have someone on here who speaks Spanish and is translating for me, so thank you very much for that. Daniel would like to know what color you used.
Sure, and that's, we're gonna have Renee in a little bit. She's gonna jump whenever I'm styling the hair so people can start seeing the real color, because right now it's wet. And she's gonna bring a tool that they use when they're doing the consultation. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, because she's gonna explain that in a little bit.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so tell us where we're at with this haircut.
So if you're coming from the back, you can see that I'm working a very straight line and then working to the sides. Right now, I'm working in this area. I'm going from the back to the side in both areas. And then I'm gonna start elevating my hair to create a soft texture to the hair.
And we just got a question that just came in. While cutting the hair above the ear area, can we elevate the hair and cut instead of tapping on the ear to compensate the length for the line?
Yes, you can do. I prefer to have more consistency on that elevation, and I get that consistency in both sides with the real movement. Hey, some people have an ear more pointy than the other one, right? So if you elevate 45 degrees in both sides, or a little lower than that, but one ear it's different than the other one, then you're still gonna have that not consistency on the perimeter. So it is better to just tap, and then you compensate that movement. I think it's a preference. I've seen it before, other people doing it, but the way that we prefer and we teach is using that technique. Just working my perimeter, distribution and elevation. Distribution is going to be natural fold. Elevation right now, here is a little bit, not much because of the ear, but everything else was 0 elevation, or using the comb to have a perfect distribution of the hair. So I comb the hair down, keep that. But if you see, I'm not using my fingers. I don't want a lot of tension, because what I want is softness on the hair. So when you create a lot of tension, depends on how you have the movement, any cowlicks, the hair doesn't react the same way. So just using the comb allows me to work softness on the perimeter, and the same on the fringe area. I'm gonna be working the fringe in a little bit, but I already sectioned it with a triangle. She got a pre-existing fringe, but we're gonna create a little bigger one.
And I know we're doing this a little bit slower because we're educating, but if you were in the salon, how long would you book for this client?
I like to book my clients. If my first client, I like to book 1.5 hours because it's a new client, right? So I like to have a conversation, and that doesn't count the consultation. If it's a client that is coming for a haircut with me for the first time, I like to have at least 15 minutes, and then another 1.5 hours to create the haircut. But I charge also by time. So I'm spending a little more time, but then I'm charging a little more. I think it's important because I'm putting a lot of effort and a lot of attention to detail during the haircut. So I'm gonna charge for that.
So now we're getting into the fringe area.
Yeah. So the fringe. For the fringe, you see I'm using a finger depth. And visualize, actually she asked me for a little shorter than that. And so it's good that I'm cutting and then checking with a 0 elevation to see where actually that fringe is gonna be. She showed me pictures from before, and the reference, it was right on top of the eyebrows, and that's what we're creating with her.
And Jeremy's asking if this will be a one length haircut.
It's not gonna be one length. I'm gonna add some movement and texture once I finish with my fringe. Any other question?
No, just a lot of love.
That's good. I love it. So right there is actually perfect. So now from there, I'm going from the center all the way to the corners. So again, following from the center to the corners, 1 finger depth, and repeat the same methodology in the opposite side. And then comb the hair at a natural fall and see if it's what I want it.
And for those just joining, we have someone asking if you could repeat on the product that you've used on her so far.
Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna put it right here. So I have the Volume Lift Styling Spray. This spray is gonna give me support and volume. And I know that the word volume can scare some people who have a lot of hair, but actually when I want just texture and movement, I can use it. And the way that I'm gonna style the hair is gonna create the movement that I want. So if I blow dry the hair to create texture and movement, not volume, then I'm gonna get what I wanted with this one. And it's really lightweight, so it's a spray, and I can layer and layer. Actually, before I blow dry the hair, I relayer just to refresh the product. The other one is the Multitasking Styling Spray from TG Copyright. So again, this one, amazing when you are sectioning. It's gonna give you a lot of control because of the creamy consistency. And also, I feel that blow drying the hair with those two products give me the texture and movement that I want, but also helps me to dry the hair faster. Right now, checking on the mirror, and I see that my classic bob is perfect in both sides, and the fringe where I want it. But I'm gonna double check with my fingers right here that I have balance in both sides. So to get that, the first step that you have to do really well is your center profile part. It has to be right in the center because that's the one that is gonna determine the density on both sides. So if you go more to one side, it's gonna be a little different, unless the person always part the hair in one side. But if that's not the case, then you can go on the center. And then start working on the back all the way to the front. Now that my bob is there, then I'm gonna create some movement, softness, and texture right on the top. So for that, I'm gonna divide it here in a radial section. Radial section is gonna give us control. That's gonna be from the top of the head all the way to the top of the ears. And then do the same in the opposite side.
And I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but Isaac's asking, would you prefer to cut on dry or wet hair, and why?
If I'm working behind the chair and I know they have the time to cut from wet to dry, I prefer to do it this way. 70% on wet hair, the other 30% on dry hair, which is when we personalize and fit the haircut to the individual. So that's my preference. Why? I have more control. When the hair is wet, you have a lot more control, especially if you have somebody with a lot of density. If you try to cut the hair on dry hair, then you need like 400 clips to control that. But there's times that I do a little exception, right? If I'm doing a color and cut, and I know that I'm gonna remove a lot, or the haircut is gonna be a lot shorter, then I remove some of the length first, so I don't waste any product. And then I execute the color, and then I come back, blow dry the hair, and then I personalize and dry hair. And there's time that it is about timing. You know, you see, if a client that doesn't have a lot of time and they come with the hair completely wet, completely dry from their house, then I just style it and then I cut. My preference, from wet to dry.
Thank you.
Okay, so now that I have center profile part, and then I have my radial section, this is gonna give me balance, this is gonna give me control. Once I have those sections, then I'm gonna take one section on the top, all right? And then I'm gonna elevate, and then that's gonna be like 90 degrees from the curvature of the head, and then I'm gonna remove that little corner, just to add a little softness to them. So we're talking about layers. The layers is gonna be from here all the way to the perimeter. So if she wears the hair a little wavy, then add a little more movement to the hair and volume.
And Dee's asking, would you prefer cutting it wet with curly type for afro hair as well?
Well, that's completely different. Depends on the texture, right? If it's something really, like a really small curls, then I can do it completely dry and then start working my freehand technique. So I start creating, if I have a face framing, and from there I'm gonna create all the layering, then I start working the framing, and from there I start moving around. So depending if it's a round layer or square layers. Most of the time when I create curls, they're kind of bouncy with a lot of volume. Then I work the front, and then I work everything in the back. Almost like a 90 degrees round layers type of shape. Yes, some curly hair, when you wet it down and you try to comb it, it's not as easy than when you take the dry hair completely. So I'm gonna take my first one. It's gonna be on the back center profile section, working from the curvature, checking that she got everything straight, the hands, and check on the mirror that she's perfect right there. So from there I start working that little corner, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut, creating long and short pieces, and that's gonna give me a lot of softness. I finish my section, I take half of that section, and I'm gonna start traveling with my guide. I'm gonna do the same here. I did this haircut not too long ago when I was presenting a show in South America. And this is a very simple shape. It's a timeless one. I can do it over and over again. It doesn't matter what the trend is, and it's always gonna be on point. But the way that you style it can be relevant to today's fashion. So today we see a lot of movement, soft waves to the hair. So this shape is awesome if you style it with a soft wave.
And when we get back to it, we have a question about the fringe. It says, how deep does the fringe section need to be? Much love from Carolina, Puerto Rico.
Carolina, Puerto Rico, wow, that's my city, so my hometown. So this is very simple. So I work a triangle section if I want the fluidity to be the most perfect one, right? I can work a round one or a square one depending on how much density I want on the front, but working with a triangle one is gonna give me the best fluidity to the hair. Triangle can be from 3 to 4 fingers most of the time, but depends on the density. Somebody that have fine hair, then I can go with 4 fingers or 5, and that's gonna give me more density. So enough weight to keep your fringe beautiful and control all the time. If somebody have one corner with cowlicks, creating something more solid and bigger, the weight is gonna maintain that corner control.
Thank you. And for those just joining, can you let us know what we're doing right now?
Yes, so I'm working with a modern classic shape inspired in our new collection, the TG Creative, International Creative Team. We did this collection not too long ago, actually it was recent. We don't even have only one book we have available at the Academy here in Soho, New York. And this is one of the shapes that they work. But what I'm doing a little different on this one is exactly this part. When I'm working, eliminating that corner, so working 90 degrees on the curvature of the head, just to give a little softness to the perimeter. So I have my perimeter, but also I have a little bit of layers, and that's gonna give you like a really nice modern look.
And when you decide pivoting versus vertical sections?
Most of the time I like to work pivoting, right? That gives me a better connection through the hair, and the fluidity is completely different. I don't work with a lot of vertical sections. I like the fluidity, the connection, everything starting from one point. It's gonna give me the best movement through the hair. But if I'm working with a men's shape, then it's mostly not working with a point of reference. Then I can work with diagonal back sections or vertical sections. So again, working 90 degrees from the curvature of the head all around. And I'm gonna end where my radial section is. So one side first and then the other one. And if you see my body position, it's always gonna be my chest. It's always gonna be parallel to my section. That way I have control. So if I'm working here, this is gonna be my body. If I'm working the next one, then I step forward. It's almost like you're dancing, right? So here, here, all the way when I finish with my radial section. But that way you have more control, right? For me, working this section and then moving here to try to work the front, if you see my hands and I try to move this way, my wrist is gonna be very uncomfortable. So I'm gonna do the first section good, but then the second one I'm gonna get tired and I'm gonna start twisting because it's more comfortable for my body. But then I'm gonna compromise the balance on the haircut. So to have total control, working from the back here and working from the back here. Did that make sense?
It did. That was a nice little dance that you did.
Woo!
Let's see. Luke is asking, how do you avoid creating too much graduation when point cutting a baseline? He loves your work.
Well, thank you first for that and the support. What was the question again?
How do you avoid creating too much graduation when point cutting a baseline?
Lower elevation is gonna maintain the length, but if you start creating too much elevation, even if you cut square or if you cut point cuts, that elevation is gonna give you a lot of graduation. So I keep my elevation low in order to maintain the integrity on the perimeter. I was working that section so then I can move forward. I can see my guideline. This is gonna be my pivot right here. So that's gonna be mine and then the one from the bottom. So just working slicing technique to maintain the softness. I'm gonna do it again one more time to verify that I have good tension and control. And I have one more. From there I'm gonna move to the front. But before I move to the front, I like to do one exercise that I think there's two types of hairdressers, right? Technicals and the creative one, the artistic one, right? And I think that having the combination of both, it makes you a really good hairdresser because you have that combination of the visual part and also the technical part. So my technical part, I did it. Now the visual part, it's coming. So I move the hair, I check that I have a nice movement on, not just on the perimeter, also on the layering. I check the balance, I check the movement, and I check the density. So now that I'm happy with that, I'm gonna start moving forward. So from that, I'm gonna start taking my section on the front, taking half of the section from the behind the radial section, and I'm gonna travel with my sectioning. So checking that right there. And then my guideline is gonna be here. I can see it. Can I do point cut? Of course. You can do point cut, but I'm working with a slicing technique. I think it gives me, the slicing technique gives me more long and short pieces, so then I can create more softness. Then the next one, right there, 90 degrees, and then repeat the same methodology in that side, and then my last one. Once I finish this side, then I'm moving to the opposite side, and I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna take one section, bigger section. And here, what we're gonna do is, this is a little trick that I like to do when it's really hard for me to find the guideline. So I go with the fine set of the comb, I comb the hair, I twist, I go up, and then I see my guideline right there. I stop my fingers and I know what it is. Because sometimes, especially when you don't have a lot of density, and this is like the last section on the front, you want to make sure that you see your guideline. You don't want to cut it too short. So for that, you can do that little trick that I did. Not like when I share that on classes. When we do classes in the academy, which is, I'm going to mention, I know that there's a lot of tutorials, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and you can learn a lot, but nothing is like learning on a one-on-one experience. So never social media is going to replace real education. It can help you, but it will never going to replace that experience. And this is one of the tricks that when I share with the students, they love it. They say, oh my gosh, that's definitely something that is going to change my life forever. And if you go to a training, of course, come to New York. If you come to one of our trainings, I'm pretty sure you're going to bring a lot back to the salon and your business that is going to inspire or re-inspire, and also it's going to make your life more easy.
Yeah, you have a lot of love coming in for this tip right now.
Awesome.
And also a lot of love for the color. And I just want to say that we will be sharing the formula very shortly, so stay tuned.
So for everybody, I want you to follow us on Instagram so that you can follow our journey. And you can, if you have any questions, you can let us know. My Instagram is Joel Torres Style. So 2 R's on the Torres and then Style. And Renee is Renee with 2 E dot Valerie. That's her Instagram. So you can, follow our journeys, keep in communication with us. You can see it all. It's almost like following our, travels and stuff. So I'm gonna do the same. Go up.
Leah says she loves this trick, so clever.
Right there. And then you stop your fingers, and then you do the same. Yeah, it is a life-changing one, definitely. There's a lot of people who, especially when you're working really fast, it's like, where is my guideline? You don't want to create a new one, and you don't want to go back too many sections to see where you lost it. So with this little trick, it's going to be really good. Right there, I see it. You know what? Can you go behind my shoulder so people can see it behind my shoulder? So then they have. So I twist my comb, go up, right there. So I stop my fingers, and from there I do my slicing technique. Or you can just. That's it.
We have a question coming in from Lee. She says, would you feel the need to take the corner off through the top using over direction? If so, when would you need to do that?
What was the question again?
Would you feel the need to take the corner off through the top using over direction? And if so, when would you do that?
In over direction, well, I think you have more control when you're eliminating the corner, just elevating 90 degrees. right? Everything 90 degrees from, especially when you have a curvature of the head, always change. The 90 degrees from here is different than is here. So from here move, and then here move again. If I over direct, then I'm gonna create concave layer. So that's gonna give me a movement that I don't want. I want the same consistency and the same weight removal all around. So it's basically I have my perimeter and I want that layer to be right here. If I over direct too much to the back or to the front, then the layers is gonna be short and long. I don't want that. So working 90 degrees allows me to have that consistency on the layers around the head. I hope that I respond that.
Yes, and Loretta says, I'm a retired stylist, but I still love watching. You're amazing and you have all the right body and hand moves.
Well, thank you so much. It is really hard when you're doing a video and talking, entertain, and also do this. But I appreciate that. When we're at the academy, it is a very different experience.
And
But I try to be as my body position straight as I can. Right now, I'm gonna let Renee Valerie to explain what she did with this beautiful color. So
Sure.
Renee, please.
Okay, awesome. Well, hi again, everyone. So I definitely want to talk you through the process of how we actually came to the color. So what I actually do before any color is utilize this consultation tool. So this is part of our creative consultation process. And it helps me identify the skin tone and the complexion and the eye level, which really helps create the perfect canvas for the model or the client that we're working on. So what I determined from using this is Mesa has more of a cool skin tone. She has an olive complexion, and then she has more of a light eye color level. So how I work that all together to actually create the perfect tone is knowing that she has more of a cool base with that olive skin. I'm going to work within the cooler family, and then I want to get her color to sit almost like level with her eye level. So that helps me not have her hair stand out and her eyes stand out. It's more that she stands out when she walks into her room, which I think is really important. So with the actual formula that I used on Mesa today, so I brought along some visuals so I could break it down. We went ahead and actually pre-lightened her hair. So this is actually my second time taking her more of a platinum blonde. So root retouch this morning just with our True Light White, which is our white-based powder lightener, an 8.5 volume because she's naturally a level 8. So it doesn't take much to actually lift her. And then I went through and did a creative formula just with one formula that got the illusion of multiple shades. And the formula, I wanted to create almost like a metallic mauve tone. So the formula is 60 grams of my level 10 violet ash, and then I have 20 grams of my 9 level violet blue, and then I have 2 grams of my level 3 violet. So how that all works is I'm using my lighter colors almost to dilute, like adding like a drop of a darker paint into white paint. So this would be like my white paint, but I'm keeping it on the steely side and on the cooler side so I get a bit more of a metallic finish. And then I'm using just 2 grams of my level 3 intense violet, so it's almost like an eggplant tone. So then diluting that down with these 2 shades, I'm able to get this iridescent sort of steely mauve hue. So with the actual placement, I think it's really important to work with the haircut as well. So I knew that she'd be having more of like a blunt sort of bob on the base, but then with texture internally. So I wanted to work the placement to work harmonious with that. So I went through, took a diamond shape throughout her crown area, which was basically going to encapsulate where Joelle was going to be putting the layers, and then applied this formula, roots to ends and the whole underneath, and then just on the roots on top. So then letting that set, knowing that pre-lightened hair is going to be quite porous, it's going to absorb where I put it on first. So I'm going to get darker result where I apply the color first. And then after about 10 minutes of processing, I brought that formula through the ends on top and only let it sit for 5. So now I'm going to create strength to the bob and then have a little bit more lightness and reflection internally throughout that diamond. So it almost creates that texture and works with the texture that he was putting in as well. Cool?
Thank you.
Of course. But I think you can see now that he's actually starting to dry the shape. You can see the disconnector where I have more deposit around the perimeter and around that fringe, and then softer throughout those ends on top. And I think a really important point is whenever we're working with pastels is to communicate the lifespan of the pastel for the client as well. So I get asked a lot, like, how do you talk to your clients about the fading and things like that? And Mesa is actually a perfect person to talk about because I've done a violet on her before, and I don't ever use the word fading, but I use the way the color is going to evolve. So I know her, spirit animal, or her goal in life is to look like Game of Thrones. Is it Khaleesi? Is that right?
Yeah.
Khaleesi. I don't watch Game of Thrones, so I have to double check the references. She wants to be more of a platinum white as her end goal eventually. So knowing that pastels do sort of evolve as you wash them, they change and they soften. It's almost giving her something new every time that she washes her hair. But her end goal, by putting a violet on top, this means it's going to actually end up being a really pretty platinum blonde. So I'm thinking about the lifespan of the whole color and what she's going to look like in a month from now as well. Because I think our clients are always like a walking advertisement for us, so we need to make sure through the whole process that they look gorgeous, so then they can recommend more people to us as well.
Definitely. Edward says, brilliantly said. Thank you.
Awesome, of course. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Is anybody from Australia connected with us? She's Australian, so you recognize that accent.
And I'll be putting the formula on my Instagram page as well, so when we post final shots, I'll write down the exact grams of everything in case you forget with the finished results, but make sure you ask any questions. I'm always here to help as well.
Thank you.
Right there? You want it?
Let's
So,
see.
I kind of like that word evolve. Right?
And Joelle, Tammy's asking, do you like to go in and do some dry slicing to add volume and texture?
Say it again.
Do you like to go in and do some dry slicing to add volume and texture?
Oh, I think I know who did that question. Yes. So, this is a personalization part. Is fitting the haircut to the individual. Is adding your signature to the haircut. And for that, when you finish blow drying the hair, I like to, move the hair and see how the weight sits on the hair. If I need to remove a little more, if I need more movement through the hair. And I always like more movement on that part, especially when you have, if you're gonna style the hair with a little wavy, the more fine the ends are, the more separation and modern looks. So for that, I'm gonna repeat the same what I did, all the sections the same way, so I don't change the shape of the haircut. Take that area and then go back and create more space. So I'm not adding more layers, I'm creating internal layers. The graduation is gonna, it's not gonna change here, but it's gonna add me more separation on the haircut. So every section when I finish, I twist, so then I don't take that section one more time. And then I take this last one right here. If you see, I let the hair, my fingers, probably like 2 inches down. So then I know that my movement is gonna be 2 inches from the length of that layer.
We have someone that's saying, tell me about space. So I'm not quite sure what that means, but can you talk about the space you're referring to when you're cutting?
Yes. So come with me right here. I think that's gonna be the best. So if you come this way, you see that, right? So when I'm doing slicing, if I'm gonna do it from down, then I'm removing and I'm creating that little space. So the hair is gonna, when I style it, it's gonna be this section right here and the other one to the other side and this other one to the other side. So it's gonna add a lot of movement to the ends. The more solid or the more density you have, the more flat it's gonna be and heavy. Here, I'm removing weight and I'm creating movement. So that's what I want to say about creating space on the ends. Or the other word that I can use is separation. So I'm gonna do it right here. I'm creating separation, and that separation is gonna give me a lot of movement on my finished look. So I'm gonna do the same in the opposite side. Now I'm gonna do it a little faster, right? When this haircut I can do it in 45 minutes. Actually, how long is be?
Let's
Right
see.
now. Oh,
You're at 45 minutes.
You see? And I've been talking and dancing and explaining and cutting and doing everything at the same time. Entertaining,
That's our kind of education.
right? I'm gonna do one more here in this area. I like to do in the crown area a little more internal layer, so I'm gonna twist. I'm gonna go with the blade inside, and then I twist back, so that way that internal layer is gonna remove a little more weight to the hair. And then I move to different sides. The reason why I'm doing this one is because I want to explain to all of you, right? I know that sometimes I post this on my Instagram and you see a lot of people guessing, asking, or commenting positive and negative about this technique. So now I'm explaining. I twist my fingers, I put the blade inside, and then I twist back and I create internal layer. Seamless weight removal.
Now, can you do that technique on wet hair as well?
With wet hair, you're gonna remove too much hair. I prefer to do it with dry hair, definitely. Now I'm gonna add a little more of the volume lift. I'm gonna use my round brush. And I'm gonna polish the ends. You see I'm combing the hair or brushing the hair forward. And then sealing the ends. Renee, I love the color. It's really nice. Once I finish here, I'm gonna apply product for the final look. So for that, I take some of the dry shampoo. Dry shampoo with the blow dryer just to apply it from inside.
And what heat are you using right now on your blow dryer?
Yeah. So if you see the way that I'm moving, the product goes all the way in. So I'm creating more movement, more texture on the hair. It's the easiest way. Because if I want to apply section by section, I'm wasting too much time.
Are you doing a cold blast to finish with the blow dryer?
Warm.
Warm.
And then the shine spray that I'm going to apply now is going to be with cold air. Cold air allows me to create more separations to the ends. And this is something that is it is a trademark for us in the company. The way that we style hair is very unique. It's always been like that. But then we change, depends where is like the trend. So now there's a lot of texture and movement to the hair. And that texture we added with all the products to cut the hair and also with the dry shampoo. Once I have that dry shampoo, I can do the buckle technique. So for the buckle technique, I take every single section and do this, and that creates a little movement to the hair. without utilizing any other hot tool like acrostic or wand or Marcel. Just a little bit, not much. This is the dry shampoo is giving me that little movement. And of course for this hot air, especially because I don't want to create a bob that is round and super classic. Mine is going to be more relevant to today's style.
And what heat level are you using for this technique?
What?
What heat setting are you using for this technique?
So it's warm, and then the blow dryer is in medium. So if I put a high, then I'm gonna move all the hair. So you want control. Okay. Once you have that, then I can go again with cold air. Oh, that's hot. Let's go to the other side, right there. This is to recreate like a second day feeling to the hair, basically. So,
Jeremy Taylor says, looking good, loving the texture.
oh, my buddy Jeremy. So now just utilizing the fingers. And if you see, like I said, you see that consistency on the layers right here. That's what exactly I wanted.
We've got Hairbrain member Doug McCoy with us. He said, thumbs up, pal.
Yes, Douglas, thank you. Almost done.
And if you are just joining us, just know that you guys can go back here on the Hairbrain Facebook page and watch this live from start to finish at any time.
And I'm gonna, after now that we finished, I'm gonna take a couple of pictures and then we're gonna share it on our social media. So Joel Torres Style, Hairbrain, or Renee.Valerie, and then you can see the end result and the formula as well.
Yes. And I'm going to bring Renee back in the camera before we sign off.
Hi guys. So hope you like the Facebook Live. So I think it looks gorgeous with the haircut, the color. I think you can definitely sort of see the texture created with the layers and the dimension with the tone.
That's perfect. So thank you so much for being here with us. And if you want more information, you can come to our Instagram. And I hope to see you at the New York Academy one day.
See you soon.
Bye.